Later in the afternoon tomorrow, the president will make an announcement in the Oval Office on his initiative to create Trump accounts to give the next generation of Americans a jump start on savings. It will be a very exciting announcement indeed, especially for all of the parents across the country with young children and babies.
Welcome back. That was the news today. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt and the president rebranding as an affordability president. The president is going to make an announcement tomorrow from the Oval Office on his new Trump accounts, where children get a $1,000 deposit from the government and where parents can contribute up to $5,000 a year tax deferred. Employers up to $2,500 a year. Let's bring in from House Financial Services, Congressman Mike Haradopoulos. Great to see you again, sir. What do you make of this? It's in the big, beautiful bill. I mean, a baby born next year, it's estimated could have an estimated $304,000 by age 18 if this takes hold.
Well, it's always smart to invest in your future. And this is exactly what we've always been teaching our kids for years. If you invest early, you'll do quite well. You can't always rely on the Social Security market. You want to rely on yourself. And what the president's doing is taking advantage of simply compounded interest.
Compounded interest, Trump accounts. So we'll watch that announcement tomorrow. And the president said he's decided on his decision on who, basically the pick for the next Federal Reserve chair, after making clear that nominee's got to deliver interest rate cuts. The reports could be that it could be named before Christmas. And a lot of people talking about NEC Director Kevin Hassett here. Watch your reaction to this. Let's take a listen.
I know who I'm going to pick. Yeah.
Oh, tell us. Kevin Hassett.
I'm not telling you. We'll be announcing it.
And there were some stories leaked last week. And the thing that I was really pleased about watching the stories leak is that, first of all, President Trump has a whole bunch of great candidates, and I think any one of them would be a big trade up from where we are. So I think that the market expects that there's going to be a new person at the Fed, and they expect that President Trump's going to pick a new one. And if he picks me, I'll be happy to serve. The fact is that we just had the best Black Friday that we've ever seen. And it's not just because people are out there, you know, taking debt on their credit cards. It's because incomes are way up under President Trump. They dropped about $3,000 a person, $6,000 a family under Joe Biden, and it's up $1,500 a person so far this year. The bottom line is it's next year that really has us excited, because the government shutdown effects will be gone. But also, don't forget, because of the big tax cuts, we got no tax on overtime, no tax on tips. All of those changes are coming in next year as refunds because it happened midway through the year. So,
what do you think, Congressman? A lot of bullish optimism here, too. What do you think?
Well, first of all, we all recognize we inherited a dumpster fire in the Biden years. High inflation, all types of issues across the country. We're slowly turning that around with the big, beautiful bill, investing in people once again, whether it be overtime, Social Security, tax on tips, you name it. I think there's a real opportunity for it. You've seen interest rates come down a tad. I personally interviewed the current Fed chairman, Mr. Powell, in my committee, and he admitted they overspent in the Biden years, and they did not adjust as inflation was going up starting in 21 and 22. Let's hope that he picks the right person who understands markets as opposed to playing politics like they did in the Biden years.
Yeah, it's like putting the economy on a dialysis machine to get off all the Biden era overspending. It's interesting. Chair Powell admitted that, yeah, Biden overspent, inflationary overspending. M3 money supply went up, too. So your final word on this, will inflation stick going down to the downside?
I think it will over time, because the markets are responding to the changes in America. It's not just what we do in Congress. It also the regulatory environment has dramatically improved. And once we get tariffs under control, I think you'll see that stability that is so essential for economic growth.
Congressman Mike Haradopoulos, thank you for joining us. Great to see you.
I think that's really cool. Kelly McGee-White joins me now. I don't want to be cynical, Kelly, but is this a case of billionaires trying to get into Trump's good books?
Perhaps, but I also think it's a really great investment into America's future. I think that older Americans are finally starting to realize that they have to set up the younger generations for success, because we're the ones who inherit this country, and we're the ones who have to continue to make it prosperous and viable for our children and our grandchildren. And listen, as someone with a 4-month-old at home, I'm not too upset about the Trump accounts. I think it's an amazing way to make sure that the younger generations have a shot at a great financial future, especially when you consider that Gen Zers, my generation in particular, are very concerned about the financial outlook. 1 in 4 Gen Zers said that the financial stress of having children is actually a dissuading factor in whether they plan to have any kids at all. That's a huge problem, in my opinion. So the more that we can do to set up younger Americans for success and encourage them to have kids and to form families, the better.
What a shame we can't make it retroactive so you can get your 4-month-old into the program and get yourself $1,000 bucks, but there you go. This is kind of almost a nasty question, but $2,000 tariff dividend checks and now these new savings accounts for babies. There are some people who are going to say, look, this is just vote buying. What's your reaction to that?
I don't think it is. I think the Trump administration understands that the #1 concern at the top of every American's mind right now is affordability and the struggle to afford very basic goods. If we look at the trajectory over just the past few years alone, and this is in large part thanks to the Biden administration, the cost of very basic goods, including grocery, electricity, gas, is much higher than it was. This is a problem for Americans. They need relief. They want relief. And if the Trump administration is not able to help provide that, they are going to start looking for it elsewhere. We saw this in November's election results in New York City, for example. Americans need a solution, and the Trump administration's solutions are the right one. We saw this during his first term. He did provide affordability relief, but it might just take a little bit more time this time around.
Yeah, look, a new poll shows 49% of us feel that President Trump has done more to increase prices rather than lower them. That's not a good look for the president with less than a year to go to the midterms, is it?
It's not. And of course, that's not true. He has taken real tangible steps to lower the cost of goods. The problem for Republicans is that when they pursue policies, they do things the right way. And because they do things the right way, it takes a longer time to stick. Whereas Democrats come in with false, empty promises of quick fixes and Band-Aid solutions. And voters like to hear that. But unfortunately, those things do not pan out in the long run. We're going to see this in New York City with Zohran Mamdani, who's not going to be able to accomplish 90% of the things that he told voters that he would be able to do. But Donald Trump did it once before. He'll do it again. Voters just need to stick with him and give him a shot.
We shall see. Kelly McGee, thanks for joining us. We'll
You might have heard about Trump accounts, the part of the president's big bill that will create government-funded investment accounts for newborns.
This is a pro-family initiative that will help millions of Americans harness the strength of our economy.
The idea is to help more people invest and build wealth. This isn't a new concept. Some cities and states already have similar programs, sometimes known as baby bonds. But with these investment accounts, the federal government makes the initial $1,000 deposit. Here are 4 things to know about how these accounts would work. 1. Who qualifies for an account? There are 2 main groups of children who can get Trump accounts. The first includes all children with a Social Security number. Basically, everyone under 18 is eligible for an account. But a smaller group of children will be part of a pilot program that gets a $1,000 investment from the government. To qualify, children must be U.S. citizens born between January 1st, 2025 and December 31st, 2028, to at least one parent with a Social Security number. There are a few ways the accounts can be created. Parents can open accounts for their children. Companies can open the accounts for their employees' children as a new employee benefit, or for their employees themselves if they're under 18. Or accounts can automatically be created by the federal government for children who qualify and don't already have an account. 2. How do the accounts work? Think of Trump accounts like IRAs for children. Parents or relatives can invest up to $5,000 per year with yearly cost of living adjustments. Employers can contribute up to half of that total. But other groups, like cities, states, tribal governments, and nonprofits, can contribute more, with no maximum, to qualified classes of children. That can include kids in a specific geographic area or born in a specific year. The accounts will be treated like retirement accounts, and the money will be invested in the stock market. When beneficiaries turn 18, the money can be withdrawn without penalty under the same rules governing IRAs. Up to $10,000 can be used to buy a house, and unlimited money can be withdrawn for qualified education expenses. How distributions are taxed is determined by who contributes to the account. 3. What are some of the benefits of these accounts? Ray Boschera is a senior advisor at the Center for Social Development at Washington University in St. Louis and a senior fellow at the Aspen Institute. He sees a few major benefits from the accounts. First, they can financially buoy young Americans who face tougher economic headwinds. They also have the potential to broaden money management skills early on.
I think it just presents a tremendous financial literacy opportunity, like a generational opportunity. When kids have their own accounts and it's in their name and they can watch their money grow, boy, you can scale up financial literacy around the country and make it much more effective and much more salient.
And research shows these kinds of investments can change future behavior.
We have seen some really positive results from the research that show that, again, when you invest on behalf of these kids, it does change both their and their parents' outlooks.
Madeline Brown is a senior policy analyst at the Urban Institute. The idea behind these accounts, she says, is to introduce more Americans to investing and to build small amounts of wealth with little cost to children or their families.
You want those 18 years of solid investment returns, somewhere between 5 and 10%, depending on the year. But you want more than just compounding interest, right? You want to be able to take advantage of the markets.
According to Gallup, around 60% of Americans report owning stocks. And the rate of stock ownership is much lower among Black Americans, Hispanic Americans, and Americans earning less than $50,000 per year. But the benefits for those child investment accounts are not just financial.
There are sort of reasons to believe that this kind of investment does actually change the behavior of both children and their parents, because it has to do with essentially somebody saying, we believe in you, we believe that you have this future that you should look forward to and start saving for.
18 years ago, researchers at the Center for Social Development began studying accounts like these in a group of just under 3,000 children in Oklahoma. Since then, they found that parents of children with accounts sustained high expectations about their children's education, had less intense maternal depressive symptoms, and reduced punitive parenting practices. The children also showed improved early social emotional development and greater college preparation than children in the control group. 4. What are some of the drawbacks? In the pilot program, the government would deposit the same amount of money for every child, no matter their parents' level of income in the long run. Experts like Brown are worried that could actually widen the wealth gap. While state, local, and tribal governments, as well as nonprofits and employers, can contribute to accounts, some families won't be able to add much to the federal government's initial investment. Some may not be able to contribute at all.
It's about a third of families in this country don't have $2,000 in a savings account. Families at the top have 71 more times the wealth than families in the middle. 71. And that was in 2022. If we don't build in any progressivity, we'll likely see that gap stretch.
And down the line, when account holders may want to use the money, there will be restrictions on how they can spend it. The idea is the money should be used on something that will appreciate in value or provide financial security, like a college education or the purchase of a home. But the median sales price of a house in the first quarter of 2025 was nearly $417,000, meaning the $10,000 you're allowed to take out from the account may not go far on a down payment.
The whole point is having the money so you can actually start your life, invest in an education, a skill, get some kind of credential, maybe buy your first home, start a business, and eventually retirement. But right now, because the distributions are governed by traditional IRA rules, there's limits on what you can do with that without paying additional taxes and penalties.
Another concern. There's no provision that would exclude these government-funded assets from income thresholds the government sets for benefit programs, such as SNAP or subsidized housing.
You know, there are a lot of exceptions to those rules, but they're complicated. So even the perception that they might lose those benefits might discourage lower income families from trying to save and build wealth.
But even with these concerns, Boshera, who has been working in this field for around 30 years, and some of his peers, are pleased to see this proposal come to fruition.
It's a really kind of a big moment, I think, in our social policy history that the federal government says, yes, saving and investing should start as early as birth for every kid in America.
For PBS News, I'm Hannah Gravenstein.
The Trump-backed tax bill being considered in the Senate right now contains investment accounts for newborns. So how does this stack up against the more traditional 529 savings plan? Here to break it down, we've got our Personal Finance News senior editor, Molly Moorhead. Molly, give us some more details around this Trump account.
Hey, Brad. So the Trump accounts, as described in the House bill, are also a mechanism for funding a child's education, not exactly like a 529, but kind of some of the same bones. But they also have the flexibility of you can use the money for a first home purchase or for startup money for a new business. So, the talk about, I'm not sure if my child's going to go to college, these accounts have a few more uses that 529s don't. However, they are limited to $5,000 a year in contributions. The $1,000 in the bill would apply for newborns born between this year and 2028, and that's seed money from the government. For everyone else, though, you can put in $5,000 a year. It grows tax deferred, and then when you take it out, you'll pay the capital gains rate. So they're kind of a companion to 529s.
So how does that compare to a 529 savings plan then?
Right. Well, 529s, as you all just discussed, are limited to education expenses, although there is that Roth IRA rollover, as well as student loans and K-12. So they really have a lot of flexibility within the realm of education costs. But the biggest difference is that the contribution limit to a 529 is at a rate most of us will never hit. States set limits on them based on the cost of a higher education in the state, but it's over six figures. So you're not going to hit a ceiling, more than likely, on how much money you can put in. It also grows tax deferred. And then the big key difference is that it comes out tax free when you spend it on education costs. So again, the Trump account has a preferred rate of the capital gains rate, but a 529 tax free when you withdraw it and spend it on education.
Molly, thanks so much for breaking this down.
Sure thing.
Thank you very much, Mike. I appreciate it. And again, for a great job. Thank you very much. Michael, please.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. I believe this is an incredible moment for all of us here today, and it's wonderful to be with some of the leaders of the most successful companies in the world as we come together to invest in the future of our country. We see the Invest America Act and the establishment of these Trump accounts as a simple yet powerful way to transform lives. Decades of research have shown that giving children a financial head start profoundly impacts their long-term success. With these accounts, children will be much more likely to graduate from college, to start a business, to buy a home, and achieve lifelong financial stability. Dell Technologies is proud to be one of the very first companies to support the Invest America Act, a bill that provides every child with a $1,000 seed investment account at birth. This is a straightforward step with enduring benefits. Following your inspiring lead, Mr. President, Dell Technologies will match the government's contributions, dollar for every child born to a Dell team member. This isn't just a new benefit. This is an investment in our people, their families, our communities, and America's future. And it embodies our core belief that opportunity should begin at birth. My wife, Susan, and I, also through our family foundation, have been closely studying the Invest America Act. And assuming that it becomes law, we expect to make a very significant gift. We view this initiative as a powerful platform for philanthropic innovation aimed at helping children thrive wherever they come from, particularly those families who have been historically left behind. Mr. President, you articulated it perfectly. These Invest America accounts will give every new American child a genuine opportunity to participate in history's greatest engine of economic growth, the American economy. The funds in these accounts invested in American enterprise and innovation will grow over time into substantial nest eggs, providing support for education, home ownership, and starting families. The ability of families, friends, benefactors, and employers to match the government's generosity amplifies the life-changing potential of this initiative. Thank you, Mr. President, for your visionary leadership on this critical issue. These Invest America accounts will profoundly impact countless young Americans, ensuring they truly benefit from what Abraham Lincoln described as a right of every American, the right to rise.
President Trump is pushing to jumpstart America's next generation with so-called Trump accounts, where every child born in the U.S. would get a $1,000 investment account. It would be a tax-deferred, low-cost index fund account tracking the overall stock market. The account would be considered private property, controlled by the parents or guardians until the child turns 18, and then would also be able to make an additional $5,000 contribution every year. Once the child is then 18, they're free to use the money for only certain things, like paying for college or job training programs, possibly a down payment on their first house, or to start a small business. So a lot of questions. Let's bring in Nathan Bomey, Axios business reporter. Nathan, great to see you. Thank you so much for your time on this. Before we really get into the details on this, on its surface, is this as beneficial as it sounds?
Well, I think $1,003 is pretty beneficial to pretty much anybody in the sense that, hey, you give me $1,000 to invest in the stock market over time, I think you can expect a fair amount of growth given what we've seen historically in the stock market. I think the big question is whether this is something that the federal government should do and whether it's something the federal government can afford to do.
I'd like to listen to some of what President Trump said yesterday as he was touting this provision.
These accounts will be private property controlled by the child's guardians, and in many cases, those guardians will be the parents. This is a pro-family initiative that will help millions of Americans harness the strength of our economy to lift up the next generation, and they'll really be getting a big jump on life, especially if we get a little bit lucky with some of the numbers and the economies into the future.
All right, so Nathan, it sounds great, but what are some of the potential drawbacks, especially because, you know, as we've seen over the past few months, the stock market goes up and down. It can do that significantly. Do we know if that $1,000, regardless, would be guaranteed?
Well, I think the $1,000 is going to, you know, the amount it's going to grow is going to depend greatly on when exactly it gets invested. If you look, for example, at had you invested $1,000 in the stock market 50 years ago, it'd probably be worth more than $300,000 today. But if you had invested that $1,000 right after the dot-com bubble bust in 2000, it'd only be worth $6,000 today. So timing is going to depend, is going to really be the deciding factor here. But again, I think one of the big questions for the government, especially for Republicans who are already concerned about what this bill could add to the deficit, is this something that's worth it to increase the national debt?
Absolutely. I do want to talk about that. But before I talk about the debt and some of the possible pushback, the president is saying that these accounts would be controlled by the child's parents or guardians. Now, in most cases, that's probably a good thing, but that may not always be a good fit. Do you think maybe that aspect of things needs to be a bit more closely examined? And if not the parent or guardian, who would manage it?
Well, we all hear the stories of child actors who make a bunch of money when they're a kid and their parents spend it all. So I think, need to ensure that there are appropriate controls in place to make sure that that doesn't happen in a situation like this, to make sure that if this actually does happen, that the money ends up being, you know, preserved for the child once they're 18.
All right, so last question, and this is something you certainly have been alluding to. We know that lots of Republicans certainly don't think that the president's big, beautiful bill actually does enough to cut spending. I'd like to listen to some of that.
Not for adding to the debt. I don't think it's very conservative to raise the debt ceiling. This will be an historic increase in the debt ceiling. This will be a more significant, a greater increase in the debt ceiling than we've ever seen in our country.
Without returning to a reasonable pre-pandemic level spending, I don't see any way I can support more tax cuts and more deficit spending. We should not be increasing the deficit.
All right, so Nathan, we're focusing on Republicans there because we know that for the most part, Democrats are against this. Do you think this initiative within the broader bill ends up becoming a reality?
I think it feels like a 50-50 sort of thing right now because, you know, on one hand, it sounds like a lot of money. On the other hand, you know, we're talking about 3 million babies born annually, $1,000 per baby, so about $3 billion a year. That's a drop in the bucket for the federal government, but doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, people won't block it because at some point, you know, too much is too much.
Well, we will certainly see what happens. Axios business reporter Nathan Bomey, thank you so much for giving us some of your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our News Nation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.
been doing now, just going around the world and flipping the script. So now we're in a situation where we've protected our industries, we have the tariffs, and the other countries have decided to take their tariffs down and non-tariff barriers. And we've done it in a very constructive way. We've achieved agreements on reciprocal trade, which are a new kind of trade agreement that's really focused on making sure we have balanced trade, we have reciprocal trade, that we're treating each other fairly. And it's been embraced by the international community. And it's going to be exciting to see what it's like 5 years, 10 years from now, because you've changed it. And that's how it's going to be now. And I think you should be commended for it, and we look forward to seeing what comes in the next few years.
Thank you very much. You're doing great. He's doing a great job. Thank you very much. Please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Last time I was here, I said that the amount of dereg that we had for regulatory was 30-1. Since then, it's up to 48-1. Your goal had been 10-1, which was in excess of 6-1 in the first term. It's actually much higher than that, but I made my team redo the threshold a little bit because it sounded so unbelievable. But the amount of work that's being done with this entire team is astronomical. And another detail in that is that when we propose a rule, some of the biggest ones that you care the most about don't go into that count until they are finalized. So next year we should be even more eye-popping. One of those to talk about is the federal acquisitions regulations, which you gave us a charge 6 months ago to dramatically reduce. In 6 months, we've lowered it by 25%, 500 pages, 2,700 mandates, which is a third of the mandates. That's going to lead to savings, competition, and speed. So probably $40 billion for the agencies and savings over the course of 10 years. When we get up and running, it'll be north of between $200 and $400 billion. Competition, about 45% of government bids only have one bidder. So you got no competition in that situation. That will now change, and then we're just getting faster, months, and hopefully we turn it into years, which means you all around this table can buy things that you need quickly, and that you have better vendors to come, many of them small businesses who want to participate in the federal procurement process. So making all sorts of improvements on that front, it's very exciting. Thank you, Mr. President.
Great on the regulations. We're cutting them at levels never seen before. And I have the record from the first 4 years, but we're blowing that record away, so it's been really great. Good. Scott?
Yes, sir, Mr. President. Great to be with everyone. And, you know, when you were giving your report, which was fantastic, and I listened to the report of all my colleagues here and those that will come, it reminds me when I played in the NFL, we had this thing called game film. You know all about film. And we had a saying that said, the film don't lie. The film tells a real story. And I hope that the American people, when they watch the film that's going on now in this time in our history, that they will see that America is greater today than it ever has been. And so I thank you for that. And thank you for giving us good stories that we can tell for the American people.
Scott, we're saving our country.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and I don't want to be braggadocious. We're saving our country. Our country was going down and would never have been able to come back. We're saving all of us, but we're saving our country. All right, go ahead, please.
Yes, sir. So at Housing and Urban Development, in keeping with your executive order, sir, in making America's streets safe and beautiful again, we've been very intentional about making public housing in our country safe. And I want people to know, our colleagues know this, but people in America know that we actually care about people that live in public housing around our country. A lot of public housing is wrought with crime, sex trafficking, drug trafficking, illicit drugs, illegal aliens living in public housing, but we've put them on notice to let you know that it's not lost on us. We care about the people, we're paying attention to it, and we're going to root out crime in public housing. We've been very focused on working with the Memphis Safe Task Force, the DC Safe and Beautiful Task Force, working with Pam and Christy and others, and law enforcement. Our law enforcement is tremendous. Every single night they go out and they go to public housing to make sure that our people are safe, mothers and children are safe. And so at HUD, you know, it's a different day. We're running new plays. The film was real bad when I came in, I'm gonna be honest. But we are giving the people that live in public housing the assurance that they will be safe. And we also announced a new crime hotline, sir, that people that live in public housing, if they see criminal activity, if they see illegals living there, if they see drug trafficking, If you see it, if you hear it, report it. Don't be afraid. And so work with our Office of Inspector General. We've set up this crime hotline and also working with Christian Department of Homeland Security, making sure that everyone that lives inside of public housing is accounted for and that they are American people. And so I say that and I emphasize that to know that we prioritize American people and American people only. Lastly, sir, in Atlantic City, we took over the Atlantic City public housing because the living conditions were deplorable. And they have people that have been living there for 3 generations and they were being treated very bad. And so I took it so that we can now give people a safe place to stay. And working with the First Lady in the Foster Youth Initiative has been a great joy for me and our team. So thank you for doing that executive order to make sure that our foster youth have a safe landing pad and have financial literacy as they age out of the foster youth system. And sir, you talked about affordability. HUD has supported over 1 million Americans in home ownership and affordability, and over 560,000 are first-time home buyers. So I hope that the press will write about that good news, that 1 million people are able to own a home and to refinance their homes. And sir, we are moving our building from DC to Alexandria, Virginia. So thank you for your support. We're going to save the American people by $500 million. So that's my report. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Scott.
Well, coming off of Thanksgiving, moving towards Christmas, I think it's the season of Thanksgiving, and 2 words for me are gratitude and joy. Gratitude to you for, as Howard said, bringing this team together. I say it a lot, but I'll say it again, that this is like family at this point, and I don't know that there's ever been an organization like this, at least a government like this in the history of our country. These jobs are hard, but the joy every day in getting to fight for America and save the country is the privilege of all of our lifetimes, I believe. So thank you for that. At U.S. Department of Agriculture, the People's Department, Abraham Lincoln launched this department in 1862. But under your leadership, we have finally, again, put farmers and ranchers and rural America first. In the last year, it's no longer DEI, climate change, sending out money based on the color of a farmer's skin. It's now about literally putting farmers back at the center of it. And under the last administration, we talked a lot about affordability. We'll continue to talk about that. But under the Biden administration and the destruction of our economy and the cost of inflation, interest rates for farmers and ranchers went up 73%. Labor went up 47%. Fertilizer went up 36%. Fuel went up 28%. So when you think about the extreme economic strain that a lot of our farmers are under in our farm economy, these are massive, massive numbers that will take some time to get out from under. But we've already seen the beginnings of the movement toward more affordable food, housing, fuel, et cetera, and that will only continue to trend as we work to solve those issues. My partners in trade, of course, they do the work, but I'm constantly talking to them about selling more soybeans, selling more corn, getting more of our products out. But when we really think about how to solve for this idea that for so long our farmers, many of them have been farming for government checks instead of moving their product around the world, these trade deals change that forever. And it isn't one trade deal or 2 trade deals, it's dozens of trade deals. And so talking about rural prosperity and bringing the golden age back to rural America, which has been lost for too long. And we're going to focus on that next year, hopefully with our vice president, many of our cabinet members. But the opportunity to do that under these new trade deals is unprecedented. And so just putting farmers first, our ranchers first, Mr. President, is such a huge priority and an accomplishment of the last year. The second quick thing is lawfare, and I know you know this better than anyone in the country. When a government politicizes and weaponizes their power to go after average, everyday Americans, well, from you, the top of the APHIS president, but all the way down to the ranchers in South Dakota, the Maud family, who were facing jail time over a fence line dispute that had been in their family for 130 years. We fixed that. The Henry family in New Jersey, who were facing their farm being taken away for eminent domain to give to affordable housing. We fixed that. So being able to completely change the trajectory of private property rights, but especially as it has to do with our farmers and ranchers and our rural communities, changes everything for our country. And then the third thing, we have so much great things to talk about at USDA, but the third thing, which became very much a part of the national conversation during the Democrat shutdown, was SNAP reform, food stamp reform. When all of America saw what so many of us know and have been working on, but when you have so much rampant fraud in a program that 42 million Americans participate in, now big good piece of news that I hope is written about, since you became president, about 800,000 of those 42 million have moved off of food stamps, which is hopefully the plan with better jobs, higher wages, et cetera. But still, when we found 186,000 dead people's Social Security numbers being used, 500,000 people receiving benefits more than twice. We had a couple of people receiving benefits in 6 states. In February of this year, we asked for all the states for the first time to turn over their data to the federal government, to let the USDA partner with them to root out this fraud, to make sure that those who really need food stamps are getting them, but also to ensure that the American taxpayer is protected. 21 states said yes, not surprised. 29 states said yes, not surprisingly, the red states, and that's where all of that data, that fraud comes from. But 21 states, including California, New York, and Minnesota, the blue states, continue to say no. So as of next week, we have begun and will begin to stop moving federal funds into those states until they comply and they tell us and allow us to partner with them to root out this fraud and to protect the American taxpayer. As Joe Biden was working to buy an election a year ago, he increased food stamp program funding by 40%. So now as we continue to roll that back. So the partnership in Making America Healthy Again is also in food stamps, but a lot of what Bobby and I are doing together is really remarkable. But again, just gratitude and joy for this work, and so grateful to you. The final thing I'll say, a lot of gratitude to Secretary Marco Rubio for wearing his Aggie maroon tie as a reflection of Texas A&M beating Florida handily about a month ago. So Marco, I want to thank you, and much gratitude and joy in my heart as well. Yes. But thank you so much.
We also have to say something about China with one of the largest purchases ever in our country, the soybeans.
Yes, sir.
And so I want to thank President Xi. We had a great meeting. We were in South Korea, and I went to a lot of other places too, but we met in South Korea, and President Xi was great. And China gave us among the largest orders in the history of your world, agriculture.
That's right. And sir, may I say, this is the remarkable result of real leadership and your real leadership. Just a couple of days ago, China announced that they were going to halt all purchases from Brazil because they had found some irregularities in some of the soybeans they're buying from Brazil. And what that means is a continued signal that this country and our farmers produce the best, highest quality soybeans, sorghum, et cetera, in the world. And what you've been able to do is open those markets up and again, move toward an era where our farmers are not so reliant on government checks, but they have the markets to sell their product. Having said that, we do have a bridge payment we'll be announcing with you next week as we're still trying to recover from the Biden years. That's right.
To help the farmers. We're going to help the farmers. They did not help the farmers.
That's right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Scott?
Mr. President, it's been a great year on the economy, but the best is yet to come. The tens of trillions of dollars that have come in investment, both the portfolio investment by companies, investment by countries, that is turning into a CapEx boom for the U.S. Capital expenditures up 15% in history. When CapEx is up, jobs will follow. The One Big Beautiful Bill is an incredible, as you said, thanks to your leadership, along with Speaker Johnson, Senator Leader Thune, we had that done on July 4th, which everyone said was impossible. And the great thing about that bill, sir, for the American people, it's for industry, 100% expensing, build your factory here, you can write it off immediately, but you also insisted on the 4 benefits for working people: no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, auto deductibility for American cars, and that is retroactive. So as a result, in 2026, we are going to see very substantial tax refunds in the first quarter. So the best way to address the affordability crisis is to give Americans more money in their pockets, which is what this bill has done. We're going to see real wage increases. I think next year is going to be a fantastic year. Taxes, deregulation, energy certainty. That's why everyone with your leadership is coming to America. Bond market had its best year since 2020. Everyone said couldn't be done. So we're going to have growth. We've had 2 4% quarters before the Schumer shutdown. We're going to go back to that. So not only are we going to have great growth, but it's going to be low inflationary growth. And stock market obviously is following, but next year is going to be the year for Main Street as all this kicks in. And you came in, immigration, I called it the 3 I's, immigration, interest rates, and inflation, that were killing the American people. Close the border, the promise kept. Interest rates are down, and 10-year bond, again, best year since 2020, and inflation led by energy prices is going to roll next year. I think it's going to be a fantastic year. We can look back, be very proud of this year, but I think 2026 is going to be great for the American people, thanks to you.
It's going to be great. Thank you very much. Mr. Vice President.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's an honor to serve with this great team that you've assembled. And I just want to pick up on something you said, Mr. President, because you hit the nail on the head, that it is absurd that Democrats talk about an affordability crisis that they created and the people around this table work every single day to address. You'll hear a lot of statistics today. You hear a lot of statistics in our political conversation. I think the most important statistic for the American people is that under the Biden administration, the average American family lost over $3,000 of household income. And under the first 10 months of this Trump administration, they have gained over $1,000 of household income. What that says very clearly is that we are fixing the problem that Joe Biden and the Democrats created in the last administration. If you look at every affordability crisis that's confronting the American people today, it is traceable directly to a problem caused by Joe Biden and congressional Democrats. Why did homes get so unaffordable? Because we had 20 million illegal aliens in this country taking homes that ought by right to go to American citizens. Why did tax bills get so unaffordable? Because Democrats were raising taxes while congressional Republicans under the president's leadership, we're now cutting taxes. Why did food get so expensive? Because we printed trillions of dollars and threw it into green scams that made our agricultural economy suffer while Americans were paying higher prices for food. On every single one of those issues, Mr. President, I think we've made incredible progress. But it would be preposterous to fix every problem caused over the last 4 years in just 10 months. I think that we've done incredibly good. But what I see over the next year, and you heard Brooke talk about joy and gratitude, what I really think this season represents for me, and I think for the entire administration, is that we have now done incredible work to fix what Joe Biden broke. And I think that next year, in American growth and American prosperity could be the best year that we've had in the United States of America. It's going to happen because we're all working hard. It's going to happen because we have the greatest country in the world. But I think for congressional Democrats in particular, if they want to talk about affordability, they ought to look in the mirror. We are fixing what they're broken. We're proud to do it. It's the job that we were elected to do. But I think 2026 is going to be the year where this economy really takes off.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Great. Yeah.
President Trump, thank you for talking about Sarah. Heartbreaks for her family. And Andy is doing well. His parents, Melody and Jason, wanted me to tell you, and I was with them yesterday in the hospital. He's a miracle. I was there when the surgeons came in, and they wanted you to know this. He's a miracle, and if everyone in this country can continue to pray for that family. He's got a long road ahead of him, but he is a miracle. And of course, our DC initiative is led by our amazing, and the monster will be held accountable who did this. Our marshals, of course, are leading the DC Safe effort. We have made over 7,000 arrests at your direction. DC is safe again. Working with everyone around this table, Pete and everyone. Scott and I were in Memphis together last week, And everyone, and Bobby, your HHS, doctors and medics are on the ground to help people in Memphis and DC. In Memphis, we've made over 3,500 arrests so far. And Homeland Security, Christy, you've been instrumental in this. But it's everyone working together as a team. We even have Treasury agents out there. It's unbelievable, on the ground in DC and Memphis. Of course, law enforcement first, FBI, Kash Patel has led the FBI. We have a 100% increase in the arrest of violent criminals, thanks to your leadership. DEA, led by Terry Cole, over 45 million fentanyl pills, 4,200 kilos fentanyl powder. That is the equivalent of 347 million potential lethal doses. That's unbelievable that you've taken off the streets of our country. And the weight of all the drugs combined taken off by DEA is the weight of 17 full semi-trucks of the drugs just since you've been in office. The drugs that had flowed into this country under the previous administration. ATF, led by Rob Sakata, has seized more than 31,000 illegal guns. 31,000. Unbelievable at your leadership. 19,000 of those were from trafficking cases. We've been sued on the legal front now. We have been sued 575 times. 575 times. More than every administration going back to Reagan combined. Most recently, yesterday, I was sued by an immigration judge who we fired. One of the reasons, she said she was a woman. Last I checked, I was a woman as well. 24 Supreme Court wins, President Trump, 92% success rate. We told you it would take a while to get to the Supreme Court. We're doing it at record speed, led by John Sauer, of course, Sarah and Hosh, all working together. Immigration, we're winning. Nationwide injunctions, ending DEI funding, working to secure that our federal workforce is aligned with your America First agenda. Representing pretty much everyone in this room. We met with your general counsel yesterday, Doug, working with everyone. It's nonstop. ICE, of course, we're winning there with Christy. We're Brooke, SNAP benefits, won there. Marco, USAID. Pete, National Guard, of course, going nonstop. Our U.S. attorneys are fighting violent crime, working around the clock to make America safe again, which was your directive. Our Civil Rights Division, suing Gavin Newsom 3 times now, Prop 50, keeping boys out of girls' sports, and in-state tuition for illegal aliens. We've sued over election integrity. We are litigating major universities with Linda. Thank you, our Civil Rights Division, for everything that you've done to end DEI in our schools. Our Civil Division fighting sanctuary cities every single day. And of course, our Antitrust Division with Google, major settlement. Our attorneys are working on terrorism, TDA, MS-13, Antifa, President Trump. We've charged more than 500 defendants with assault on federal officers thanks to your directive. And also, we have dropped countless cases against Americans that were prosecuted under the Biden administration, including J6, COVID, FACE Act, and more. And as everyone knows, we cannot talk about pending grand jury investigations, but no one is above the law, and that includes what happened in Arctic frost. I hope everyone has a very Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and Happy Holidays. Thank you for fighting for our country.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Please.
Great. Well, thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for allowing me to be at this table. When I came on board, I knew really none of you in this last year, and it's been a year, Mr. President, since I've had the pleasure to serve this country on the workforce. Everybody said the Department of Labor would be quiet, fly under the radar. You won't have to do too much. Absolutely not, because you made the American people realize the American dream is real for the American workforce. And it's been under your leadership, Mr. President, that over 2 million jobs that has been created since you started have been native-born workers. And that is the difference between this presidency, this administration, as opposed to the Biden administration, where mostly foreign-born or federal government jobs. And I think through the private sector, over 2 million jobs of native born. And so the Labor Department has wasted no time in putting that into action with our Make America Skilled Again, either grant dollars, but the intentionality of the apprenticeship program, 1 million active apprentices across this country. We have done over 250,000 new apprentices so far in the first year and registered over 2,000 new apprenticeship programs. Why do we need the apprenticeship programs with the men and women in the trades? Because of the leadership of onshoring and reshoring, and have a lot of these companies reinvest in America. We have to build this country. We cannot do that without the tradesmen and women and the craftsmen of this country. And I think that, Howard and I, we talked about that from the beginning, and we're going to have to lean in on that because we need the labor force, 700,000 new skilled jobs with electricians, construction workers, machinists, and so forth. And as I traveled with the Vice President as well, we see that on the manufacturing floors of this country, they're in desperate need. The Department of Labor are going to get the workforce skilled again. Working with Secretary McMahon as we move a lot of the education out to our respective states, we are now working together, and we have deployed $86 million in investments, and a lot of that is in AI infrastructure jobs to have our new workforce proficient and literate in AI if we're going to continue to lead the AI race, and we're working on that. And the Department of Labor is now creating and will soon launch the AI infrastructure and workforce hub, which we will be able to track that metrics to see exactly if these dollars are going correctly. Integrating education and workforce with, obviously, Administrator Loeffler and I are on the road a lot together because we're talking about Main Street as well as a lot of the manufacturing jobs, and how we're being an ally to our businesses as opposed to an adversary. For far too long under the Biden administration, we were adversaries to our business owners, and we want to give them a leg up always and make sure that we're paying attention. And we want our workforce to be educated. We do not need the numbers that we have seen across this country where our 4th through 8th graders cannot read, write, or do any math, and they are our future workforce. We have to depend on the American worker first. Also, lowering healthcare costs in line with the executive order. I'm working with Treasury and HHS, and rulemaking is underway to expand healthcare transparency and make pricing more affordable for our employers who offer these to their employees. Promoting retirement security. The department rescinded the Biden administration's guidance that restricted the use of crypto in the retirement investments, and we're seeing more and more of that, where we also rescinded the supplemental statement that discouraged the fiduciaries from considering the alternative assets for 401ks, and that will also come through the Department of Labor, that rulemaking. Ending abuse of cheap foreign labor at the expense of the American worker. We launched over 200 investigations into companies who will have abuse and or fraudulently against the American worker. So Project Firewall was released. Thank you, Mr. President. We want the trained workforce, but we will root out the fraud and abuse, and we'll protect the American worker first. And slashing the job-killing regulations. The department has rescinded discriminatory DEI practices, and I will tell you, reducing compliance costs for businesses as it was for DEI has saved American businesses nearly $1 billion this year by just getting rid of DEI for that compliance cost that they've had to do. So, Mr. President, continuing to skill the American worker, the American workforce is going to be my mission. We have to do it faster. We have to do it quicker. We have to build so that the American people can realize that American dream that you have laid out so eloquently. And it's an honor to serve under this administration and to talk to the American workers who believe in the American dream again, the pride on their face, the pride of the American worker, the skilled men and women who build with their hands. It's an honor. So thank you, and Merry Christmas.
Very good job. Thank you very much. Chris?
Mr. President, I am honored and frankly inspired to sit at this table with this incredible team of leaders that work every day for one and only one constituency, the American people. Not this group or that group, the American people. The price of energy is very much on the mind of Americans. The biggest determinant of the price of energy is politicians, political leaders, and policies. That's what drives energy prices. Under your leadership, what we've seen in the United States is just a steady drop in the price of gasoline, a huge consumer cost for Americans. As you mentioned early on, well below $3 a gallon right now and trending downwards. There are a number of stations in the heartland of America with $1.99 signs flying today. That's simply impossible without the leadership and changes you brought. Now, of course, you can go to California, where the average price of gasoline is between $4.50 and $5 a gallon today in California. That's just bad political leaders there and bad policies in California.
And taxes.
And taxes.
Taxes they charge on gasoline are just insane. Terrible.
And electricity prices is a very parallel story, but it's a bigger moving ship, so the changes are a little bit slower. But Americans are outraged at a roughly 30% rise in the average price of electricity across this country. But everything we are doing together is going to reverse that. Not just stop the rises, but start a downward trajectory in electricity prices. And I can say that with confidence, not because we think these policies will work. We know these policies will work, and I'll get to that in a second. We're going to stop closing power plants. We've already done that, of course. Stop closing the coal power plants and natural gas plants that were shut down. We've got over 30 gigawatts of generators just sitting there today, not allowed to run. Well, of course, we're fixing that immediately. We're going to bring on from our existing grid tens of gigawatts more capacity that'll drive down the cost of electricity. But if we look at the last 5 years to see what works and what doesn't work, the most Trump-aligned policies in the electricity sector were by, no surprise, one of your cabinet members, Secretary Burgum, for 8 years governor of North Dakota. Over the last 5 years, production and demand for electricity in North Dakota grew 35%. Think what data center boom's going to do. And what happened? Electricity prices went down. Didn't rise slowly. They actually went down those 5 years. That's the answer. Trump-aligned energy policies increased demand for electricity. Nebraska and Texas, more Trump-aligned states, had significant growth in demand for electricity. They had electricity price rises, but well below the price of inflation. Unfortunately, Biden brought all of us a lot of inflation. If you look at the other end of the spectrum, California, New York, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Maryland, I could go on. What happened in those states? Policies and politicians that force the building of unreliable electricity generation, which requires new infrastructure and transmission lines. And what happened? Today they produce less electricity than they did 5 years ago. A lot of spending money and less electricity. What does that mean? Of course, much faster rises in the price of electricity. Blue states have had 1.5 times faster rise in electricity prices than red states. Red states alone, less than inflation. We need to bring those policies. You are bringing those policies to the national level. We hope the blue states will come along with us, but your policies are going to start the decline of electricity prices nationwide under your leadership by just bringing back common sense. So thank you for allowing me to be part of this team. For people here who are focused on winning, special thanks to Howard and Scotty, who were there with me to see the Denver Broncos win on Monday night. Now we want nationwide wins on energy for 3 more years.
And we're doing more energy production than we've ever done by far right now.
Records across the board that'll continue to be reset every year you're in office.
Thank you very much.
Well, Mr. President, thank you for giving me a very interesting job. Some days it's a little controversial too, but it's been an honor to work for you. You are a great American. The fights that you pick are the right fights, and they're always on behalf of this country. So I appreciate the chance to do this job heading up this department. If you think about what Joe Biden did with the Department of Homeland Security, he used this department to invade the country with terrorists. He opened up the borders, let anybody come in that wanted to. He put them on airplanes. He let them through our airports. If they could figure out a way to get to our shores and in our country, he just opened the door and invited them in. So it's our job to get them out. And I want to thank you for this team, because I look around the table and I think every single person here has helped me do my job over the last year. They've supported us at the border and given us resources. Marco negotiates all the travel documents and relationships with other countries to take their people home. 2 million people have gone home already. The people that were here illegally
you've removed from our country and sent home. And we're going to send more home for the holidays too, and make sure that they get to be with their families in their countries. Yes.
Mostly the bad ones.
That's right. Pam,
Focus is the bad ones.
That's right.
And there are a lot of them.
terrible, horrible people. And Pam, make sure she's fighting for us in court so that we can get up every day and be bold. We're going to hire our 10,000th ICE officer. Will be on the job within 10 days. So we have hired 10,000. We've had hundreds of thousands of applications. We've got within the department, TSA went through this government shutdown without any delays. They all showed up for their shifts and worked hard doing security. And they have been absolutely fantastic. Sir, you made it through hurricane season without a hurricane.
Yeah.
And so FEMA, you kept the hurricanes away. So we appreciate that. And FEMA is deploying resources and dollars 150% faster than ever before. So if somebody does have something bad that happens to them, you are immediately there helping them and telling them they have the resources to get back up on their feet. So we have built and deployed hundreds of miles of border already. You have cut the fentanyl flow over the southern border by over 56%. You've saved hundreds of millions of lives with the cocaine you've blown up in the Caribbean. And, you told me to look into Minnesota and their fraud on visas and their programs. 50% of them are fraudulent, which means that wacko Governor Walz either is an idiot or he did it on purpose. And I think he's both, sir. He brought people in there illegally that never should have been in this country, said they were somebody that they're not. They said they were married to somebody who was their brother or somebody else. Fraudulent visa applications, signed up for government programs, took hundreds of billions of dollars from the taxpayers, and we're going to remove them and we're going to get our money back. And we're going to, this next year, make sure that we only put people in leadership positions in this country that love this country and have its back. So thank you for letting us get up every day and have a purpose. We
Thank you very much. Thanks, Chrissy. Appreciate it.
Mr. President, you're exactly right. We are saving this country. We're doing it one Main Street at a time, and we're doing it at record speed and at record levels. Under your leadership, small business optimism, according to the U.S. Chamber Index for small businesses, has reached an all-time high in the history of that index. So on Main Street, the economy is coming back thanks to your leadership, thanks to getting Biden inflation under control. Small businesses' number one concern right now is finding skilled labor, and that's why Secretary Chavez DeRemer and I have entered into an MOU to speed that workforce to small businesses that under this administration are now at record levels. 36 million small businesses have now taken on board, for the first time in the SBA's history, $100 billion. That's $45 billion in small business lending at 85,000 small businesses, most of that under your term, and $52 billion out to small business investment companies. So we are running this agency like the best run bank in the country. We are growing small businesses across Main Street, and we're deregulating to the tune of $100 billion, working with all my fellow cabinet members. And thank you for putting together the best cabinet in history. Iron sharpens iron, and thank you for bringing such a strong leadership group together. And then finally, I've walked factory floors from Alaska to Maine, and the workers, the small businesses, most manufacturers in this country are small businesses, 600,000 of them. They are so grateful to your fair trade, low inflation, deregulation agenda that is creating national security and economic security in this country like never before. And so I want to also finally thank you for bringing faith back to the White House, to this administration. I want to thank Brooke for hosting the Cabinet Bible Study and invite everyone tomorrow to Bible study and making this country something that we can be so proud of under your leadership. And I am so blessed and honored to be part of this team. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President, for your leadership. I am truly grateful to be a member of your team here at this table to help support you in delivering on the promises that you made to the American people. You came in with a very clear mandate of taking on the rampant weaponization, politicization of the intelligence community and federal law enforcement, experiencing yourself, the deep state abusing their power as they have against you, your family, and so many of the American people. Bring out accountability truly for those who have abused their power, making sure that the intelligence community is supporting your efforts in keeping the American people safe, secure, and free, and being the president of peace. I'm grateful to be in this position as your Director of National Intelligence to support you in these efforts, and I'll cover very briefly what we've done over the last year under your leadership and what we look forward to continuing to focus on next year. First of all, under your leadership, again, we've taken on a historic effort for transparency, declassification, and exposing these abuses of power by these deep state actors. We've declassified over 500,000 documents, many of which had never been seen before by the American people, put them online to bring about this level of transparency. We formed a weaponization working group, again, to be able to go after a lot of these abuses of power that have never seen the light of day, to support the accountability that under Pam Bondi's leadership in the Department of Justice is coming about. Secondly, bring about reforms to the intelligence community to make sure that we have the most effective and efficient and focused workforce that's really working on bringing about the priorities you have laid out in ensuring our country's security. And lastly, Mr. President, working with many of our partners here around the table is going after these domestic threats. We have threats coming from both Islamist ideology as well as Islamist terrorists, foreign terrorist organizations, and those who seek to do harm to the American people, many of whom were let in across our borders under the previous administration. We are focused on these tasks and this imperative for the American people, and just appreciate your leadership, Mr. President, in empowering us to be able to conduct this service. Merry Christmas.
Thank you very much. Merry Christmas. That's right. Merry Christmas. Say it loud and clear. Lee?
Mr. President, your team at the Trump EPA has been crushing it all year to fix the big mess that we inherited and deliver amazing results for the American people. I've had the opportunity to visit all 50 states since confirmation earlier this year, and to hear from real people where they meet, where they live, and to bring their great ideas and their asks back to us to be able to deliver for them. At the Trump EPA, we have proven that you can both protect the environment and grow the economy. On the environmental front, since you were sworn in earlier this year, we have averaged a big environmental accomplishment every single day. On the 100th day, the 200th day, the 300th day of your presidency, each time we released a list of our top 100 environmental accomplishments. That has included a historic LA wildfire cleanup that you ordered us to complete in record time, which we did, and the Army Corps, under the leadership of our great Secretary of War, did their part as well. The federal government completely did all of the work needed to allow these residents and businesses to be able to rebuild, but poor leadership at the local and state level, unfortunately, is still resulting in these property owners unable to rebuild, and it's wrong. We also were able to reach an agreement with Mexico to be able to implement a plan to permanently end a decades-old raw sewage crisis on the southern border with Mexico. And Secretary Rubio and his team, Chris Landau, Ambassador Johnson, they've been amazing to get that done. On the deregulatory front, we have proudly launched a massive blitz that amounts to the largest deregulatory effort by any agency in the history of the United States. To put some perspective on it, in 1 year, at one agency, we will do more deregulation than entire presidencies have done across all agencies. It's incredible. You could go back across 4-year terms, 8-year terms, you've never seen this much deregulation. One agency, 1 year. In fact, when finalized, the proposed rescission of the 2009 Obama EPA endangerment finding amounts to the largest deregulatory action in the history of the United States of America. From fixing the agency's definition of waters of the United States, which is important for our farmers, our ranchers, and other landowners, to the effort to end electric vehicle mandates and promote consumer choice, eliminating regulations designed to eliminate entire sectors of our energy economy. We're thinking big and we're delivering big. We have reduced terrible derailments on diesel exhaust fluid systems. We're getting water moving faster, new pipelines and power plants built and we are helping to unleash energy dominance. Mr. President, on the operational front, we have significantly reduced the size of the agency workforce, and we are accomplishing more with less. It's all about priorities, and our focus is on fulfilling our statutory obligations, helping to fast-track project approvals that were taking way too long, and closely following the law, as well as key Supreme Court decisions like Loper-Bright to overturn the Chevron doctrine. We inherited massive backlogs that we have been eliminating all year long. We've been implementing your executive order to end COVID-era remote work. We consolidated real estate, canceled expensive media subscriptions, and closed a Biden EPA museum that none of you knew even existed. I'm sure none of you actually visited. To put it another way, in 2024, the Biden EPA obligated and spent over $60 billion in 1 year, an agency with an operational budget of about $10 billion a year. In their own words, caught on camera, they were tossing gold bars off the Titanic, wasting precious tax dollars to pay off well-connected Obama and Biden officials. And they were doing it without any apology or regret. The Biden EPA, in fact, was amending grant agreements just days before you came into office to reduce agency oversight. But this year, 2025, at the Trump EPA, similar theme that you'll hear from everyone around this table. With our actions canceling wasteful grants and implementing other measures just mentioned, we have saved $30 billion. They spent over $60 billion. We have saved over $30 billion. The bottom line, by the way, is that the Green New scam is dead. It's a new day at the EPA where we will protect the environment and grow the economy. We will deliver on the Trump mandate every day. And we will fight with just one constituency front of mind, and that is the American people. Thank you, Mr. President, for being willing to take a bullet for this country. And if you were to ask me what I'm grateful for, whether it's a Thanksgiving, it's a Christmas, a Hanukkah, a New Year's, any time of year, the fact that this president, after 4 years serving in office, he could have just left it in the rearview mirror and went on to really enjoy retirement. But he is willing to take a bullet for all of you tuning in at home because he believes in his flag, our freedom, our liberties, and to save the greatest country in the history of the world. So I'm grateful this holiday season for you, Mr. President. You're willing to take a bullet for all of us, and by all of us, it's the American public.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. President, good morning, everyone. Well, in spite of the fact that your charge to me is to fire myself, we've really been incredibly hard at work making sure that we can return education to the states. And as I sit and listen to all the emergencies that we are addressing in this country, from the economy to our borders to everything that we're doing, I would say, sir, that if we do not fix education in our country with this hard reset that you are expecting, I think the greatest national emergency we could face is our education. Because if we are not going to educate our children, we're going to continue to fall behind the rest of the world. When there are only 30% of 12th graders, 8th graders, and 4th graders that can read at proficiency level, that is an incredibly harsh statement to make about our country. And you told me when you first were elected president, and you looked at, I think, right after you took office, the first NAEP scores, which is Nation's Report Card, came out and showed how far down we were in educational proficiency in our country. And not only the NAEP scores, but the international scores as well showed us about a third from the bottom. You told me you were not only embarrassed, but you were angry about this, and that we had to do something to change this in our country. And we took a hard look at it, and you absolutely said the bureaucracy of education in Washington is keeping its thumb on preventing growth what we should have, because it's best handled at the state level. Letting states put their programs in place, and some states are going to do it a lot better than others. But it's not going to happen from Washington, D.C. And when I hear things like, well, with no disrespect to any other country in the world that have really great programs, Germany, Sweden, Norway, we hear about this all the time. Point of fact is, they're this big. The United States is this big. We can't do it from Washington, D.C. It has to be done at the state level. So what we've been doing, as Lori brought up, Secretary of Labor brought up, we have a great working relationship. We have already signed and implemented one MOU or interagency agreement to handle the WIOA program and the Perkins grants to make sure it works. I call these, these are programs, pilot programs that we're putting out there. And if these are going to work, we will be able to permanently transfer these programs to other agencies. They're working like a charm. We've taken some of our best people in education. It still operates under the budget of the Department of Education and under the management of the Department of Education, but working with Lori's personnel. And when I hear pushback on that to say, well, how can this possibly work to take education and put it in labor? Let's be efficient. One example, in order to draw down on a lot of the grants that they are helping us with, we're using their grant system. The grant system at the Department of Education is like held together with bubble gum and rubber bands. And it did not interact with any other agency. Now, we have this really smooth operation already in labor. So that has prompted us to sign also other interagency agreements, 2 more with labor, 1 with HHS, 1 with the Department of State, and we'll be moving other programs, but these are proof of concept. Let's make sure they're working and working smoothly before we ask Congress to codify these permanent moves. So that's kind of in the world of K through 12, what we're looking at right now, but in the world of higher education, as Attorney General Bondi mentioned, we've been working really very hard to make sure that we've got anti-Semitism and DEI out of our universities, and put some pretty stiff fines on, worked some good deals. I've enjoyed working with Harmeet, who is just an incredible negotiator. So we're bringing all of that to bear as well. So I can say, sir, that we are moving to return education to the states and to bring the level of education back up, making sure our students can read by reintroducing the science of reading in schools. And going into next year, I can honestly say we've got a lean, mean machine operating at the Department of Education. It's only half the workforce of when we started, and we're more efficient, and I think we're going to see better results as we move into next year. So thank you for this incredible opportunity.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President, during this holiday season for empowering us at HHS, me, Dr. McCary, Jay Bhattacharya, and Dr. Oz, to change the trajectory of this agency towards public health in a way from the tradition of serving the mercantile interests of the medical industrial complex and the big pharmaceutical companies. 2 weeks ago, we ended, under your leadership, a 20-year war on women by removing the black box warnings from hormone replacement therapy. The medical cartel was telling women that hormone replacement therapy during menopause was dangerous for them. In fact, here's what the science said. It diminishes the risk of fatal heart attacks by 25%, cardiac disease by 50%, Alzheimer's by 35%, bone fractures by 50 to 60%. It improves appetite, it improves sleep, it improves energy, it improves happiness. There are tens of millions of women in this country who have been deprived of that therapy because of scientific malpractice by the medical cartel. We are now remedying that, and this remedy will now be available to all women who want it during one of the most difficult transitions of their lives. MFN is one of our greatest accomplishments. It would not have happened without you. You were the only person who believed in it. You drove us to get it done. We've now made agreements with the 5 biggest pharmaceutical companies. We have 12 more in the lineup to make agreements. By the time this administration leaves office, 95% of the drugs in this country we will have the lowest prices of any nation in the developed world. Americans are already getting the benefits from these. These companies are already lowering these prices dramatically, as you've noticed. And then this week, Howard at Department of Commerce and Jameson at the U.S. Trade Representative made a bargain with Great Britain to raise their drug prices in conformance with your promise that the Europeans would raise theirs to counterbalance us lowering ours, and therefore we would keep intact the ecosystem of innovation and protect innovation. So congratulations on that, Mr. President. When you first asked me to take this job, one of the first contacts we made was with the leading economics professor, health economics professor at Harvard. And we asked him what's the one innovation that we could do that would most dramatically improve the health care experience for the average American. And he said there's no contest, it's to get rid of prior authorization. Thanks to your leadership, we were able to convene the largest insurance companies in this country and do something that every administration, every Congress has promised for the past 30 years. We actually got it done. We convened the insurance companies representing 280 million Americans and got them to agree, most of them by January of 2026, for 2 months from now, to remove prior authorization for most of their procedures, for all the procedures we want them removed from. And that means that American patients at the point of care will be able to get an answer immediately. If your doctor says you need knee surgery, you will know before you leave that doctor's office whether your insurance company will pay for it or not. Similarly, healthcare records, the tech industry has refused to share healthcare records. You asked us to change that. We convened the 60 biggest tech companies at a conference that you presided over about 2 months ago. We now did a secondary conference which 400 leading companies all come in and agreed to remove any kind of blockages where individual Americans can get their own health care. Americans own their health care records, yet they were not able to access them. And if you lived in New Jersey and you moved to Oregon and you got injured, you went to a hospital, you would have to spend maybe 45 minutes filling out forms on a clipboard because your doctors there could not get your healthcare records. They couldn't get your blood type, your allergies, all the things that they ought to know immediately so they can save your life. Now that has all changed, and all these companies now have agreed to remove all the blocks on sharing healthcare records. Every American will have their healthcare records available on their cell phones, and it's already happening. In the last 6 months, there have been over 100 times the number of healthcare records shared by hospitals and during the entire previous administration. On deregulation, HHS proudly is now leading the pack, and thank you for your help on that, Russ. But today we announced the revocation of the nursing home rule, which was overburdening rural areas across this country, Indian reservations, with regulations that were going to destroy the nursing home industry in those communities. And that is going to be a $25 billion savings. Those are some of the things that we're doing because of your leadership. President Trump, thank you so much, and Merry Christmas to you.
Thank you, Bobby, very much. Great job. No?
Well, Mr. President, you've assembled an incredibly talented group here. If you took a look at this group compared to any Fortune 500 leadership team, any group of startup folks, I mean, this is an amazing group, and the breadth of what's being accomplished. And the timing couldn't be better because with your leadership and vision, you've set us up for this age of abundance as we head into next year, the 250th anniversary of this country. And what are we heading into that year? As we've talked around the table, you've heard about massively lower taxes, massively lower regulation, abundant energy, record capital investment coming in, job growth. I mean, we are set up to really have something to celebrate next year. And I just again want to say thank you to everybody around the table. You gave us one big assignment in Interior. Of course, Interior, the largest balance sheet in the world, in the Department of Interior, if it was a standalone company, 500 million acres of surface, 700 million acres of subsurface, over 3 billion of offshore from Guam to the Virgin Islands, and you said, we got to take care of that balance sheet. We got to develop those resources. And what have we done across that? Producing record amounts of oil, record amounts of gas. And again, we set out with a goal, energy diplomacy, sell energy to our friends and allies. We're exporting a record amount of energy to all of our friends and allies around the world. That's helping do that. And you're giving a gift to America as we head into this. You're giving us peace abroad, and you're giving us prosperity at home. That bodes so well for our country. One small little gift that we're giving to all Americans from one teeny part of Interior, which is the national parks, is that not only are we keeping prices low for all American citizens, offering 10 free days for our national parks next year to coincide with our holidays, but also a $100 surcharge for non-residents. That is going to raise hundreds of millions of dollars for helping restore and preserve all of our best parks. So as we close out, then I want to also say a big celebration going on here in Washington, D.C. We've been thrilled to be part of the National Park Service, the U.S. Park Police, part of this great effort across a number of us on making D.C. safe and beautiful. This will be the safest and most beautiful capital in the world. We are doing so many things, whether it's hundreds of homeless camps, thousands of graffiti sites, cleaning up ponds and fountains, preparing this thing. The United States is never going to be performing better economically. It's never going to be looking better, just like the White House has never looked better, all because of your vision leadership. So again, thank you, sir. You've given an incredible Christmas gift to Americans by setting us up for an incredible 250th anniversary.
That's very nice. Thank you, Ted, very much. Marco?
Well, thank you, Mr. President. First of all, this is a very talented team, as you've seen, and as you know, because you picked every single one that's on. You deserve tremendous credit for doing that. It's an honor to be in this role. It's also an honor to be involved in and be a witness to what I believe is the most transformational year in American foreign policy since the end of the Second World War, at least. And it's transformational because for the first time in a long time, we have a president who basically puts America at the forefront of every decision we make in our relations with the world. And that may sound weird to people, like, of course you always do. No, that hasn't always been the case until about a year ago. And I think we've all witnessed in our own respective spaces how in every interaction the president has with the world, the goal he has in mind is very simple. Does what you want us to do, or is it what or is it going to make us stronger? Is it going to make us richer? Is it going to make us safer? If it is, he's for it. If it's not, he's against it. If something's going to make America weaker or poorer or less safe, the president's going to be against it. And every single thing he has done in our foreign policy has been driven by the American people in mind. And I can go down the list. Why has he focused on mass migration? It's very simple, because no country is safe if you can just walk in without us knowing who you are into your country. We've seen the destruction that that's wreaking, not just in our own country, but the impact that it's having in Europe and in many other parts of the world. You talk about trade deals and the trade situation has been involved in. People, all this reporting on it. It's very simple. The president views the last 40 years as an era of which American workers and American farmers have been ripped off. They've been ripped off, and what he's saying is we want to have a trade with the world, but it has to be a trade in which American businesses and American workers and the products they make and what American farmers grow and produce has a fair shot to be sold around the world. On issue after issue, that's been the case. You talk about foreign aid reforms. This is not our money. This is taxpayer money. When the president has said we're going to do foreign aid, but we're going to do foreign aid for countries that are aligned with the United States and in a way that doesn't waste the taxpayers' money. Mr. President, you deserve tremendous credit for that. Many of us, the Vice President, by the way, I want to acknowledge, has played an extraordinary role in our foreign policy, and he too has been a witness to all of this as it's been occurring, and he's been a big part of it as well. You talk about NATO. The President's not against NATO. He went to NATO and basically said, look, you guys, we're paying all the money, and he got them to do the 5% commitment, which everybody said was never going to happen, it was impossible. Everything this president does is driven by the American people. Whether you don't have to agree with the actual move, but understand the motivation. The motivation is always you, the American people, and what's good for you, for your family, for the country, and for our economy. But the president is also committed to peace in a way that all of us have seen. He achieved in Gaza, and he does it, by the way, not just because he hates war and he thinks wars are a waste of money and lives, but because he's the only leader in the world that can. No other leader in the world could have pulled off what happened in Gaza. And I can tell you, I can't get into the details. The Vice President knows what I'm talking about. That deal doesn't happen without the president's direct interaction with the leaders that were involved in this decision making. and everyone said that deal couldn't hold. And then the president shepherded through the United Nations of all places to get a global coalition of countries to line up behind the peace deal, behind the border peace. And it's still, every day is a challenge, but it's been driven personally by the president. It's the reason why we're involved in this whole Ukraine-Russia conflict. That's not our war. It's not the president's war. This war started, it never would have happened if you'd been president. But this war is going on, and the president is trying to end it, not because, listen, we got a million things to focus on in the world as a country, but he's the only leader in the world that can help end it. And that's why that's why even as we speak to you now, Steve Woodcock is in Moscow trying to find a way to end this war, to save lives of 9,000 people, Mr. President, as you know, are dying every week. More people are dying a week in that war than have died in the entirety of the U.S.'s involvement in Afghanistan or Iraq. Just think about that, how bloody and destructive it is. The president's taken on this issue of Sudan personally, not send out deputies to do it. Again, far away from the United States, because he's the only leader in the world that can bring it about to an end, not to mention all the other peace deals, very dangerous ones like India and Pakistan, or Cambodia and Thailand. And so on all these things, Mr. President, I think you deserve tremendous credit for the transformational aspect of our foreign policy. For the first time in probably 4 decades, the American foreign policy is driven by what is good for America and Americans. Whether it makes us safer and stronger and more prosperous. If it is, he's for it. If it doesn't, he's against it. And that sort of clarity is transformational. I close with this, and I know I'm last, so I wanted to be fast, but there was a lot to cover. I do want to say this is the most wonderful and magical time of the year. By that, of course, I'm referring to the college football playoffs. And I just want to say this as a point of personal privilege. And I'm a Florida Gator, but if the University of Miami gets screwed out of the college football playoffs after going 10-2 and beating Notre Dame, the whole thing should be scrapped, and you're going to have to take over it next year.
That's great. Well, thank you all very much. I hope it wasn't too long, but it was very concise, and we've done a lot. This group has done a lot. Amazing. Everybody at this table has done a fantastic. And Susie, thank you for doing a great job as our Chief of Staff. First female Chief of Staff in the history of our country, which is pretty amazing when you think of it, right? And she's the best. Thank you very much. Great job. So after that, do you want to ask any questions?
Mr. President, there's been a lot of speculation about who the next Fed chairman could possibly be. You said you have somebody in mind. How many names were you given on the final list? And does that person currently work on the board of Federal Reserve?
Well, I'd say that we probably looked at 10. And Scott interviewed some people that I didn't know, but he knew. And a lot of people were involved in the process, actually. And Howard was involved. But I think we probably looked at 10, and we have it down to 1.
Can you answer this? I want to ask you about Elon Musk, if I could. You talked about Elon Musk. You had him in dinner here in the White House. Is he now back in your circle of friends?
Well, I really don't know. I mean, I like Elon a lot. He was a very, he really helped during the election with his endorsement. He felt strongly. But we had one problem. You know, I didn't want to have everybody have to have an electric car. And he makes electric cars. And yeah, I think we get along well.
No, on affordability.
Mr. President, thank you.
Yeah, one more. Yeah, when you talk about affordability, is going forward, are the American people, do you believe, getting impatient with the reforms that you're making? They've talked about it's about.
I think they're getting fake news from guys like you. Look, affordability is a hoax that was started by Democrats who caused the problem of pricing. And they didn't end it when, look, they lost in a landslide. We won every swing state. We won the popular vote. We won everything. You take a look at districts, it was 2,750 to 525. Because that was an affordability problem. We brought it down. Look at energy. Look at the gasoline price. That's like the simplest, and it's the biggest. Because if energy comes down, everything comes down. That's the way it works. We're going to be at 250. You said 199 in some places in the country, right? You said it. I didn't say it. And they won't check you. They'll check me. So, you know, I'd like to use your number. 199 a gallon. Unthinkable if you go back a year and a half ago. It's unthinkable. So No, we're bringing the prices down, way down. Beef is coming down now. We've done certain magic, and beef is coming down. But we inherited horrible prices. We inherited really the worst inflation in history. We inherited that. When I came in, that's what he had. And we fixed inflation. And we fixed almost everything, if you want to know the truth, including 8 wars. We got 1 to go, but including 8 wars. But when they always say, I watched today where they have a race going on right now in Tennessee, and this woman goes, affordability, affordability. They're the ones that caused the problem. The prices were way high. We're bringing the prices down. But they're like scam artists. You know, they're I call them con men and women. They come out, they say affordability, like, oh, I see prices. We're going to get prices down still further. But we brought them down from the prices they cost. The reason that they had the highest inflation in the history of our country is because they had the highest prices. But we brought them down, and now we have normal inflation. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, thank you so much for taking questions with your assembled cabinet. I wanted to clarify something that you had said on Sunday regarding the boat strikes near Venezuela. You had said that you didn't know if the second strike on that one boat had happened, but you wouldn't have wanted it. Now that your administration has acknowledged that it happened, do you support that second strike? And Mr. Secretary, I wanted to clarify something you had said in an interview back in September, I believe on Fox News. You said that you had watched that strike live on television. In real time, did you know that there were survivors after the initial strike?
Well, look, all I know is this. Every boat that you see get blown up, we save 25,000 on average lives, 25,000 lives. They've been sending enough of this horrible fentanyl and other things like cocaine and other things, but fentanyl right now is the leader of the pack, to kill our entire nation. Because a little speck on the head of a pin can kill somebody. It's very dangerous stuff. I know so many people where their sons were drug addicts. They had one little sample, and they died. They died. They couldn't believe it. As far as the attack is concerned, I still haven't gotten a lot of information because I rely on Pete. But to me, it was an attack. It wasn't 1 strike, 2 strikes, 3 strikes. Somebody asked me a question about the second strike. I didn't know about the second strike. I didn't know anything about people. I wasn't involved in it. I knew they took out a boat. But I would say this, they had a strike. I hear the gentleman that was in charge of that is extraordinary. He's an extraordinary person. I'll let Pete speak about him. But Pete was satisfied. Pete didn't know about second attack having to do with 2 people. I guess Pete would have to speak to it. I can say this, I want those boats taken out. And if we have to, we'll attack on land also, just like we attack on sea. And there's very little coming in by sea. I think we've knocked out over 90% of it. There's very little, and I understand that. There's very little. We're saving hundreds of thousands of lives with those pinpoint attacks. It's an amazing thing when you see a boat going along, and a lot of the press would like to say they're not. You see the boat, they're not maybe drugs. You see these boats. First of all, who has 5 engines on the back of a boat going in weird directions and loaded up with lots of white containers? They're bags of things. No, they've done an amazing job, and Pete has done an amazing job. Pete, you could probably better answer the question.
No, you're spot on, sir. I think you got to start with the baseline, which Marco laid out, everybody's laid out. We've got 20 million people invading our country over 4 years. We don't know where they're coming from. That includes Tren de Aragua and cartels and violent criminals. They bring drugs, and you mentioned it, Mr. President, poisoning, an intentional poisoning of the American people, killing hundreds of thousands of Americans. So the president had the courage to designate these cartels as designated terrorist organizations. Now, a number of us here served in the military and spent 20 years fighting terrorists like Al-Qaeda and ISIS on the other side of the world. How do you treat Al-Qaeda and ISIS? Do you arrest them and treat them, pat them on the head and say, don't do that again? Or do you end the problem directly by taking a lethal, kinetic approach? And that's the way President Trump has authorized the War Department to look at these cartels. And I wish everybody could be in the room watching our professionals like Mitch Bradley, Admiral Mitch Bradley, and others at JSOC and SOCOM and other commanders. The deliberative process, the detail the rigorous, the intel, the legal, the evidence-based way that we're able to, with sources and methods that we can't reveal here, that make sure that every one of those drug boats is tied to a designated terrorist organization. We know who's on it, what they're doing, what they're carrying. All these white bales are not Christmas gifts from Santa. This is drugs running on four-motor fast boats or submarines that we've also struck. No one's fishing on a submarine. And I have empowered them to make that call. Now, the first couple of strikes, as you would, as any leader would want, you want to own that responsibility. So I said, I'm going to be the one to make the call after getting all the information and make sure it's the right strike. That was September 2nd. There's a lot of intelligence that goes into that, building that case and understanding that, a lot of people providing information. I watched that first strike live. As you can imagine, at the Department of War, we got a lot of things to do. So I didn't stick around for the hour and 2 hours, whatever, where all the sensitive site exploitation digitally occurs. So I moved on to my next meeting. A couple of hours later, I learned that that commander had made which he had the complete authority to do, and by the way, Admiral Bradley made the correct decision to ultimately sink the boat and eliminate the threat. He sunk the boat, and eliminated the threat. And it was the right call. We have his back. And the American people are safer because narco-terrorists know you can't bring drugs through the water and eventually on land if necessary to the American people. We will eliminate that threat, and we're proud to do it.
So you didn't see any survivors, to be clear, after that first strike?
I did not personally see survivors, but I stand, because the thing was on fire. It was exploded and fire and smoke. You can't see anything. You got digital. This is called the fog of war. This is what you in the press don't understand. You sit in your air-conditioned offices or up on Capitol Hill and you nitpick and you plant fake stories in the Washington Post about kill everybody, phrases on anonymous sources not based in anything, not based in any truth at all. And then you want to throw out really irresponsible terms about American heroes, about the judgment that they made. I wrote a whole book on this topic because of what politicians and the press does to warfighters. President Trump has empowered commanders to do what is necessary, which is dark and difficult things in the dead of night on behalf of the American people. We support them, and we will stop the poisoning of the American people.
And Mr. Secretary, on the second strike, you said it happened more than an hour after the first. Did I hear it correctly?
I couldn't tell you the exact amount of time.
Minutes, or you went off the room, is what you're saying.
I already stated my answer quite clearly.
So remember this, we lost last year, I think it was more than that, but people don't like saying it because they always said 100,000, 115,000, numbers we've been hearing for years. So we lost last year more than 200,000 people, dead people, ruined families beyond the 200,000. And those 200,000, that family will never be the same. But these people have killed over 200,000 people, actually killed over 200,000 people last year. And those numbers are down. Those numbers are down. They're way down. And they're down because we're doing these strikes, and we're going to start doing those strikes on land, too. The land is much easier. It's much easier. And we know the routes they take. We know everything about them. We know where they live. We know where the bad ones live. And we're going to start that very soon, too.
Mr. President, thank you so much, Mr. President.
You know what? When we start that, we're going to drive those numbers down so low. And then you're going to have families be able to live without the fear of their son or daughter just having a pill to have a little fun and ending up dying within a period of 60 seconds, right? No, we're not going to let that happen. We're not going to let it continue to happen. What Biden did to this country by allowing all these people, and I call them animals in many cases, I think they're animals, to come into our country and destroy our country and let all those drugs pour in, let people just walk across the border like it was nothing. You look at them, a lot of them, you say, oh, let's not discriminate. I'm not talking about color. I'm just talking about you look into the eyes of some of these people. We're smart. And you see a killer. Come on in. Just come on in. 11,888 murderers. Many of them committed more than one murder. He allowed them into our country, totally unvetted, totally unchecked. But he also allowed drugs to come in at record numbers. And hundreds of thousands of people a year died. And we're taking those son of a bitches out,
Thank you so much, Mr. President, for taking our questions. I think this is the most transparent administration I have ever seen.
I'm impressed by these people. I'll tell you, how strong are you? You've been holding it for 2 2 hours. You know, there are very few physically. There are very few people who could do that. I'm very proud of you. Whoever the hell you are, I have no idea who you are, but you're strong.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, last week, militia groups in Iraq attacked the Kurdistan region's gas field, the largest gas field, which even the U.S. companies invested in the energy sector in the Kurdistan region. And the Kurdistan Prime Minister requested the United States to provide them some sorts of means and defense system to defending their civilian infrastructure and U.S. investment in the Kurdistan region. Are you willing to providing them this support? And if I had this question, tomorrow the United States is going to open and inaugurate one of the
Speak louder.
Yeah, of course.
Is that possible?
What?
You're the most gentle, beautiful voice, but you're a very gentle person. Go ahead. Just take fewer words and louder.
Yeah, sure. I'll repeat my first question. Last week, the Iraqi militia groups attacked one of the largest gas fields in the Kurdistan region of Iraq, which even the U.S. companies have invested in these gas fields.
Yeah.
And then,
are you from Iraq?
I'm from Kurdistan, Iraqi Kurdistan.
Okay.
Yeah. Working for Huda Media Network. And the Kurdistan region prime minister, he requested the United States to providing them some sorts of defense system to defending these gas fields and U.S. investment in the Kurdistan region. Are you willing to helping them?
Well, we're going to look at it. I heard about it, and I'm hearing about it more now, frankly. It wasn't at the top of my list. It's a very unusual question, I think, but I assume you're from the area, and to you it's a very important question, and to me it is also, because people are being killed. I will say this, Iraq has been much different in terms of us than they were prior to us taking out the nuclear capability of Iran. You know, Iran has gone down many, many steps in terms of its fear factor. They were the bully of the Middle East, and they're really not the bully of the Middle East anymore. And Iraq was being bullied by Iran. You know? We had a president that thought it was brilliant to blow them up, and they blew them up, and all of a sudden, instead of having a power that was basically equal to Iran, they had Iran ruling the Middle East for a long period of time. But Iraq, from the day we hit them with those B-2 bombers and knocked out and obliterated, because CNN said, well, maybe it wasn't total obliteration. Well, it turned out it was totally obliteration. It was every single one of those missiles hit its target. It was actually amazing, but it was wiped out, totally wiped out. I will tell you, Iraq has been a much friendlier place. They talk to us. The Prime Minister actually nominated me along with about 78 other countries for the Nobel Prize. I'm the only one that was nominated by almost 100 countries that didn't get it. But that's okay. But I saved a lot of lives. I saved a lot of lives. But Iraq nominated us for the Nobel Prize, and that was a great honor. You know, we didn't expect that from Iraq. Iraq has been a much different place since the taking out of Iran the nuclear capability. Yeah, let's get to another question. Here we go. This guy's a beauty. Go ahead.
Secretary Rubio mentioned your meetings ongoing in Russia today. Do you have any update from Mr. Witkoff and Mr. Kushner?
No, because I've been spending too much time with you. I mean, we're spending a lot of time in here. We wanted to do this you talk about being open and transparent. This has to be the most transparent administration in history. We spent a lot of time answering your questions and giving you a lot of good, good results. I mean, I think everybody here gave you good results. But no, I don't. I will have after I leave here.
But do you hope for a breakthrough, or is it not quite at that stage?
I don't know. Look, I don't know. All I can tell you is that we're trying very hard to save 25 to 30,000 people, mostly men, mostly soldiers, every month. 25,000 to 30,000 soldiers. It's impossible. That's half a stadium. Take a big football stadium. Take half of those people in a stadium, and they're wiped out. They're killed every month. It's crazy. That war is crazy. It would have never happened with me, and it didn't happen for 4 years.
And you just mentioned potential land strikes. Can you elaborate anything on that?
I'll elaborate. If they come in through a certain country or any country, or if we think they're building mills for whether it's fentanyl or cocaine. I hear Colombia, the country of Colombia, is making cocaine. They have cocaine manufacturing plants, okay? and then they sell us their cocaine. We appreciate that very much. But yeah, anybody that's doing that and selling it into our country is subject to attack.
So not necessarily just Venezuela.
No, not just Venezuela, no. Venezuela's been very bad. Venezuela's been really bad in something else, probably worse than most, but a lot of other people do it too. They would send murderers into our country. They would empty their jails into our country. They sent people into our country that we don't want. They sent their drug dealers and their drug people into our country. They sent people from their mental institutions into our country, and we're getting them out. That was bad. That was real bad. And they also sent drugs. Yeah.
On Tim Walz, Mr. President, do you think he should resign over the fraud scandal in his state?
And who should?
Tim Walz, over the fraud scandal in his state.
Look, I think the man's a grossly incompetent man. I thought that from the day I watched J.D. destroy him in the debate. I was saying, who was more incompetent, that man or my man? I had a man and he had a man. They were both incompetent, and I had a man and a woman. I thought she was very incompetent too, but now she's leading the field, and I think she's leading the field in this for the nomination. Anyway, look, that's up to them. That's up to the Democrats. You know, the problem with them is they have really bad policy. And I'm not going to say what it is because I don't want them to change it necessarily. Because I want to run against it, whether it's not going to be me, it's going to be somebody that's going to probably sitting at this table. Could be a couple of people sitting at this table. Could be a couple of people running together sitting at this table, you know. But I want them to win because we've done a great job for this country, and I want that to be carried forward. And you know, I think we have a tremendous bench, really a tremendous bench. But no, I think that Walz is a grossly incompetent man. There's something wrong with him. Okay, there's something wrong with him. And when you look at what he's done with Somalia, which is barely a country, you know, they have no anything. They just run around killing each other. There's no structure. And when I see somebody like Ilhan Omar, who I don't know at all, but I always watch her for years. I've watched her complain about our Constitution, how she's being treated badly. Our Constitution, the United States of America, is a bad place. Hates everybody, hates Jewish people, hates everybody. And I think she's an incompetent person. She's a real terrible person. But when I watch what is happening in Minnesota, the land of 1,000 lakes, or however many lakes they have, they got a lot of lakes. But this beautiful place, and I see these people ripping it off, and now I'm understanding, and you're going to look at that, Scott, I hear they ripped off Somalians, ripped off that state for billions of dollars, billions, every year, billions of dollars, and they contribute nothing. The welfare is like 88%. They contribute nothing. I don't want them in our country, I'll be honest with you, okay? Somebody would say, oh, that's not politically correct. I don't care. I don't want them in our country. Their country's no good for a reason. Their country stinks, and we don't want them in our country. I could say that about other countries, too. I can say it about other countries, too. We don't want them to hell. We have to rebuild our country. You know, our country's at a tipping point. We could go bad. We're at a tipping point. I don't know if people mind me saying that, but I'm saying it. We could go one way or the other, and we're going to go the wrong way if we keep taking in garbage into our country. Ilhan Omar is garbage. She's garbage. Her friends are garbage. These aren't people that work. These aren't people that say, let's go, come on, let's make this place great. These are people that do nothing but complain. They complain. And from where they came from, they got nothing. You know, they came from paradise, and they said, this isn't paradise. But when they come from hell, and they complain, and do nothing but bitch, we don't want them in our country. Let them go back to where they came from and fix it. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody.
Mr. President, has Maduro offered to leave?
Yes. Come this way. Thank you, President.
around to the right.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
At U.S. Department of Agriculture, the People's Department, Abraham Lincoln launched this department in
10 days. So we have hired 10,000. We've had hundreds of thousands of applications. We've got within the department, TSA went through this government shutdown without any delays. They all showed up for their shifts and worked hard doing security, and they have been absolutely fantastic. Sir, you made it through hurricane season without a hurricane.
Yeah.
And so FEMA, you kept the hurricanes away. So we appreciate that. And FEMA is deploying resources and dollars 150% faster than ever before. So somebody does have something bad that happens to them, you are immediately there helping them and telling them they have the resources to get back up on their feet. So we have built and deployed hundreds of miles of border already. You have cut the fentanyl